The free speech movement grew out of the civil rights movement. UC Berkeley students organized themselves in support of black voters. At the end of 1964, students led by Mario Savio protested the university's ban on organizations. The conflict became violent and lasted for 3 months. The free speech movement was mostly led by students. 800 students participated actively in the free speech movement. The students were joined by other individuals as well as some celebrities. Students were treated very poorly. Students were treated like criminals. The National Guard was called in. As protests expanded, more people started getting arrested for protesting for what they believed in. They were treated as though they had no rights. On December 2nd, the biggest rally during the free speech movement occurred. 1,000 people occupied Sproul Hall at UC Berkeley. Mario Savio spoke, John Baez sang. There was a Hanukkah service, and people settled in. The chancellor had to back down. Chancellor Strong was the chancellor at UC Berkeley from 1961 to 1965. Strong strongly opposed the students' right to organize. He eventually lost the support of the administration. Mario Savio was the key speaker to the free speech movement. He was a political activist. He encouraged protesters to take part and draw attention to what wasn't working. The constitutional rights of students were being denied. The right to free speech is guaranteed by the First and Fourth Amendments to the Constitution. These protesters led the fight to make sure that these rights were guaranteed. This was very important for all of the civil rights movements that followed. Because of television, people throughout the country could watch the scenes taking place in Berkeley. Students in other universities across the country and in other countries were inspired. This had a big effect on some colleges. Several colleges closed down due to the protests. Protests about civil rights, the Vietnam War, and the draft grew in major universities through the late 1960s. By 1970, 448 universities were either closed or on strike. Young people protested being drafted to fight a war that they did not believe in. Protests became violent across the country. In 1973, the draft was discontinued and the military became all volunteer. Student activists focused on injustice wherever they could see it. They had sympathy for immigrant laborers in the Central Valley and protested their working conditions. The solidarity between the different causes was an important part of the civil rights movement. Women mostly played a minor role in the civil rights movements, but the growing sense of injustice to women led to the women's rights movement. It was not until 1972 that the Equal Rights Amendment passed, and the following year abortion became legal. The gay movement was a part of the counterculture of the 1960s. In the spirit of all the other protests against injustice, there was a great support for the gay community after the Stonewall riots in New York.